I'm Gerald Whittle, the CEO of Whittle Consulting. Whittle Integrated Strategic Planning is founded upon the strategic application of specialised management concepts including activity-based costing and theory of constraints. Theory of constraints is a management philosophy developed by Dr. Ellie Goldratt in the 1980s. In a nutshell, the theory of constraints, or TOC, is about maximising the flow of the system and therefore generating cash more rapidly now as well as into the future. We view a mining operation as a system, and we recognise that the potential of the system is determined by its primary bottleneck. This primary bottleneck is the part of the system that most limits the performance of the whole system. In order to maximise the flow of cash through the system, we need to maximise the performance of the primary bottleneck. Whittle Consulting applies the principles of theory of constraints in our integrated strategic planning approach. Underpinned by activity-based costing, which identifies where the net cash value is spatially in the ore body, the strategic planning implications of theory of constraints are threefold. 1. Describe the constraints or limits of the different activities the way they really are, which is generally not defined in dry tonnes. 2. Allocate all the period or fixed costs to the primary bottleneck in the system when performing a pit or underground shape optimisation. 3. Make grade bins and perform ore control on net value per bottleneck unit. Employing these techniques can result in a very different life of mine plan and increase MPV by 5 to 35% or substantially more. In open pits in particular, the mineral reserves often increase by 10 to 30%. In an exciting development, Arrie van Nierkerk has joined Whittle Consulting as a partner. Over the last 2 decades, he has taken theory of constraints to a new level and in a different direction. Arrie has successfully harnessed the power of theory of constraints with an operational focus, as opposed to the strategic approach that Whittle Consulting has previously focused on. We've called Arrie's operational approach Tactical Theory of Constraints, or TTOC. Arrie has successfully applied tactical theory of constraints in over 90 mining operations worldwide, including both open pit and underground operations.
The operational approach of theory of constraints applies a process called the 5 focusing steps. Step number 1 is identify the system's constraint because it determines the throughput of the whole system. Step number 2 is then to maximize or exploit the performance of the constraint or the bottleneck. Step number 3 is to subordinate everything else in the system to the requirements of the bottleneck or the constraint. In other words, to help it perform better. And only then we will follow step 4, where we elevate or lift the capacity of the primary constraint or bottleneck until it is no longer the primary bottleneck or constraint of the system. Once this happens, a new bottleneck will emerge, and then you go back to step 1 and repeat the process. The tactical theory of constraints operational solution typically involves the following. Step number 1, identify where the primary bottleneck is, and then sometimes where it should be. Then to support the bottleneck with a clear focus, full preventive maintenance, standby resources, ample supplies, nearby spares, and so on. Then we establish buffers before and after the bottleneck. And in order to manage those buffers, we require protective capacity before and after the primary bottleneck. Changing the focus from traditional KPIs like efficiency, utilization, and productivity to system-wide flow performance measures and buffer management is what it's all about. The core problem with the traditional approach in mining is that we strive to optimize everything through cost and efficiency. This does not work. And we need to move away from this balanced capacity approach towards optimizing flow. We develop a tactical TOC optimized flow model and establish new operating rules and procedures to facilitate the bottleneck flow. These are then managed through a daily operations meeting. In open pit applications, we manage buffers between drilling, blasting, loading, hauling, cleaning, bench preparation, and so on. In underground applications, we focus on the flow of development meters per heading and stope production rates. We must remember every mine is unique, and therefore the solution is tailored for each specific operation. The results speak for themselves. The tactical TOC approach has repeatedly demonstrated increases in production flow between 10 and 50%.
The strategic and operational applications of theory of constraints are different in focus and level of detail. However, they are completely consistent and complementary. One informs and supports the other. As a first step, undertaking a strategic and operational assessment by Whittle Consulting will identify the value levers for your mining business. From this assessment, recommendations for the combination and sequence of potentially both Whittle Integrated Strategic Planning and the tactical theory of constraints will be determined. In our experience, the resulting uplift in NPV from undertaking both Whittle Integrated Strategic Planning and tactical theory of constraints can be significant. The logic and the results speak for themselves. The outcome can be transformative for mining operations across all commodities. If you have found this video interesting, the next step is to attend my online 4 half-day Whittle Integrated Strategic Planning seminar. And then, when you've done that, Arrie's online 2 half-day Tactical Theory of Constraints Masterclass. We look forward to seeing you there.